I'm very passionate about, whenever I'm speaking about leadership, I start with purpose. Because without purpose, there is no direction. And particularly when I speak to young people and I say to them, if you have reached the age of 21 and you have no cause to live for, you're not worth living. And that's what Martin Luther King Jr. said. And therefore, it's very important that we know what is our purpose and what drives us and why we are here. Because it's not about us. It's about the purpose, that the reason why you're here. If you don't figure out that purpose and you don't, as a leader or as a human being, and you don't figure it out earlier in your life, you'll probably be an oxygen thief for the rest of your life. And that's very important. So I thought, let me show you just a few strategies of higher purpose leaders. Those are people who've made a huge difference in our life. These are higher purpose leaders, and they've got quite a few strategies, whether it's in business. Let me get a sense of who am I talking to. People who are running their own businesses, yeah? Great. People who are executives and managers and great. People who are in an academic education field, great. Young people who are professionals, great. Just got a sense so that I know exactly what I'm talking to here, because it's very important, otherwise I will be here. No, we're all young, I'm young also, although I've got 2 grandchildren, but I'm young. Thank you very much. Okay, right. So what are those strategies that they focus on? The first one is really clear. They face reality. They just don't minimize reality. It's very important not to minimize reality. The situation you're facing, you honestly assess it. You're able to really make sure you do not understand. If you are a young person, let me tell you, the reality is that the world is tough and you have to work hard and the world owes you nothing. And if you're a leader and leadership is tough, it's very important that you realize that. You need to, when you enter, business leaders who are here, if you're running a business, you know how tough it is. I've run businesses, it's very tough. Right now, we're facing big challenges in the organization I'm operating in, particularly on the energy side. If you're facing crude price that goes up and down, and you cannot control it, and your exchange rate that goes up and down, and you cannot control it, and you've got to control major organizations in terms of the structure, it's tough. You need to assess the situation. You need to be sober-minded. And if you are a leader, if you don't have that sense and you just gloss things, you don't have a sense of rigor when you assess the situation and the problem you're facing, you're going to make serious mistake. And that's very important. Even in the political field, when Nelson Mandela came out of jail, he assessed the situation and he realized he's facing a very tough situation. You know, president, we had a euphoria when he started. It's now the reality, they call it Ramaphoria, but it's also now Rama reality now. Are you with me? Because there's a reality. The problems we're facing as leaders are systemic, are challenging, are very, very serious. I participated in what we call Indlula Miti scenario planning for our country, where we can go and what are the problems that we're facing are systemic. They're deep. Corruption is deep. When you're talking about capture and we're looking at the capturing of our state, it's very deep. And therefore, it's very important that as leaders, we assess that situation realistically. But after you've assessed that, you cannot sit and be paralyzed by it. Are you with me? The challenge with leaders who analyze and analyze, as you know, they end up paralyzed by the analysis that you've made. You cannot be. Therefore, you must come out and envision the potential. In other words, go out there and set a vision. That's very important to set a vision, because a vision is a picture of the future that you look at and you say, this is the picture that I prefer. And I'm going to look at this desired future and I'm going to go for it. If I were to use a biblical example, is that, you see, it was not a mistake that Moses had to go to the mountaintop and see the promised land. And once he had that vision of the promised land, when he sees it, he had to come down and then start walking towards it. And so whatever challenges he faced in the wilderness is because he already in his mind imprinted the vision. And that's why it's so important that you have a vision. If you're running an organization, you must set a vision up front that this organization is going to be a leading organization in this field and is going to achieve, if you're running an organization, this types of turnover, this type of market share, this type of profitability, and you set it up together with your people. Once you've got that, and you put them in the picture of that vision. Once you've got that, it's amazing the power of a vision. It drives people through thick and thin. It makes them to survive challenges. And you must also have a vision of an individual himself. And you, if you don't have a vision, as a young person, I mentor a lot of young people. I say you must first have a vision, your personal vision, not a company vision. Personal vision. And your personal purpose, your personal values. Because those things will carry you through the difficult challenges because you'll be constantly seeing it out there. Are we still together? Yeah. Now, once you set the vision, obviously now you need to break it down to worthy goals. It's very important that you put the goals that are clear, that are measurable, that are sometimes ambitious and very ambitious, but very clear milestones on how you're going to achieve them and how you're going to work with them. And your goals must be linked with all your life. We're talking about holistic leadership here. You must have, obviously, if you're running a business, you must have very clear goals about your business. When we started our businesses a long time ago when I was young, I was very entrepreneurial before we joined Excel, before we joined Sasol. We started an organization called Excel Petroleum. That's many years ago now, 1997. And we didn't have a service station, one service station, nothing. But we started being bold and said, look, we will have 100 service stations by the turn of the century. Remember those days of the millennium? And when you say it's a bold statement like that and you go into the public domain, people think, geez, what has Radebe been smoking? And you need to set that vision. And once we set that vision, it drove us. And it's very important that you set that for you. But also we set a vision for your own team. And set your vision for your own personal life. Set a vision for your own family. If you're a leader and your family is not stable, doesn't have a vision, you're going to be in deep trouble. Set a vision for, if you're a student, your academic program, what is your vision? And what are those goals that you've set for the workplace? If you're a member of a community, I like Toastmaster, and it has produced a lot of leaders and passionate about integrity and all those values of making a difference in the community in which we operate. So that's very important. Setting worthy goals. Let's move on. I'm going to be fast. There's things which you cannot compromise when you're a leader. You don't compromise on standards. And excellence is one of the standards you have to make sure as a leader you focus on. And if you drive people to excellent standards in whatever they do, if you're running your business, if your quality is bad, nobody's going to come to your business. If your service excellence is bad, nobody's going to come there. But if you stretch people, challenge them as a leader, it's amazing when you do that. People's best come out. And so standards is very important, but obviously very compassionate with people. You see, when people know that you care for them, they respond to your challenge, even if you hold them close to the fire in terms of the standards. Somebody said people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it's very important that you do that. So as a leader, we'll move on now. Focus, focus, focus is important. And I repeat this, focus, focus, focus. If you've started something, if you're running a business and you're all over the place, you spread yourself too thinly, you are not going to deliver, period. You're going to disappoint so many people. Choose one or two things and you focus on it. If you look at my career, during the time when we were all growing, I focused in the energy sector and specifically in the oil and gas sector. I may have used different vehicles, which was Shell, Excel, and Sasol, but I focus in the industry. And that industry now I know it. And I'm at the helm of it, participating in industry association. and help to steer the industry in the right direction, even now in the difficult times of transformation. Where there's regulations that are in that industry, where there's legislative framework, where there's policy framework. Because as a leader, you now say, it's not only about my organization, it's about our industry, it's about our country, it's about our economy. But if you do not have an area of focus, you're going to be all over the place. And nobody's going to really have authority, sense of confidence in what you say. So as a leader, choose an area and focus. Focus is very important. Commitment to a shared value of excellence, I've already spoken about that. But together, it's so important that collectively, if you're running a company, make sure your executive team, I've got an executive team, that I sit with them regularly, and we set ourselves goals, we set ourselves vision, we set ourselves the standards, and we serve our customers in an excellent way. And in that way, all of us have got this sense of urgency and excellence. And what is important, we all know. So as a leader, it is your role. It is your role to build that commitment. Diversity in our country, I'm so glad this is a very diverse team that I'm seeing here. Not only do we need to accept diversity, but we need to embrace diversity, but also extract value out of diversity. And because diversity is a business imperative if you're running a business. It's no longer a question of racial issue. If you're running a business, diversity is a value. And therefore, it's very important that it is you as a leader. Make sure that not only diverse in terms of race, but diverse in terms of thought, diverse in terms of gender, diverse in terms of style, diversity. It's amazing. I sit and have an executive that is global. There'll be somebody from Qatar, somebody from Nigeria, somebody from the US. Thank God for technology. Now you can have an EXCO meeting. People don't have to be flying on with telepresence, and you're sitting as if you're all in a one boardroom. And people making presentations. It's amazing when you listen to somebody from the other part of the world. And once you've arrived at a decision after a robust discussion, the quality of decision is even better than the one I thought as a leader was my initial, original idea. Because you've enriched the decision. So if you go and hunt together now as a team, it's amazing what you can do, a team together. Somebody said if you want to go fast, go alone. You know it. But if you want to go far, go together. So that is true. Now this is one I want to pause a little bit on this one. Leading with grit. This is a Finnish word called sisu. In Zulu, it is sisu, is your stomach. Yeah? But it means grit. It means ability not only to follow up, but to follow through. It means when trials and tribulations comes, you can stand. It means when winds of change come all over, you can stand. It needs to be steadfast. Because as a leader, everyone, when the rocky times come, they are looking at you. If you break, everything breaks. But if you hold on, you carry through this situation we face. So it's very important that you be present. People must trust you. And you must have clarity of mind. You must have a sense of fairness. You must have a sense of direction where you're going. And trust me, when you're running any organization, it's not if challenges are going to come. It's when they're going to come. And when they come, you must have the grit. You must have sisu. And lots of leaders just wave like that. And when you wave, you blink, your whole organization is gone. And leaders know what I'm talking about here. I have been a leader for over the last 3 decades. I've been starting organizations, whether it's social entrepreneur organization, even the ULP. There are times where it was so difficult to go. But we just hang in there. And because you're driven by a vision, you're driven by your purpose. And that's the characteristics that we need most in our organization. And when we do not have that, organizations flounder, even countries flounder because of that. And that's very important that we have that. And I really like to focus in that one in particular. I've already spoken about collective leadership, and it is very important that you know. The one I want to speak about, find the anchor. Find the anchor. Anchor here, I mean who you are, what you stand for, what are your values. And people who do not have an anchor, you can see there. Because when things go wrong, they abandon what they stand for. When I was reading your profile as Toastmaster, I saw one of their values is integrity. If ever there was a time we need integrity in our country, it is now. And I urge you to really be men and women of integrity, you yourself as an individual first. Because when you are, this country is going to move in the right direction. And anchor also means, what is it inside of you? What is your locus of control? Are you influenced by the world? Are you influenced by circumstances? No. Find your anchor. All of us must find our anchor. I have found mine. Mine is found in my Christian values. You must find yours. Because without that, I don't know how you're going to survive. I really don't. You have to have an anchor. Anchor is like a ship. If it's not anchored at the harbor, it's going to float in the sea. And it's going to be battered by waves all over. And therefore, it is very important. And I urge you, if there's any one thing that I've left you here, and you're doing your homework, and you go back to your home and says, what is really anchoring me? And if you haven't found it very quickly. And the next thing is that choose who's teaching you. Even now, at the leadership level where I am, I still have mentors. I still have coaches. When I took over to run Sasol Oil as an MD, I looked at the anchor of a friend of mine who used to run, at that time, Caltex nationally. He was a chairman of Caltex nationally, globally, and he was based in Singapore. And I called him and said, look, I've taken over an oil company here. Come and help me. Be my anchor. And we meet every second month. We meet for a dinner, and I tell him the challenges and problems that we're facing. By the time we're facing major challenges, we've just been in a situation where we were trying to merge with Engine, and the competition authority says no, and it was a difficult situation. We had to rebuild the organization, and I was leading that. Morale was down, challenges were galore, competitors were galore, and you need somebody who's teaching you. And when you have got somebody who's going to be a mentor or somebody, a coach, you need to give them the liberty to tell you what you don't want to hear. And that should be the deal. Because you don't need a fan in a mentor. You don't need a cheerleader in a mentor. You need somebody who's going to tell you, Maurice, what you've done is a mess. Straight in your face. And you need to take that feedback. And I've been told many a times. And it's painful. But I see they reflect, and I improve. There's one guy who actually was so good. I always mention him. He's currently the EVP of Shell International, Isfan Kapitan. I always thought I worked hard. But when he came in from Hungary, and his work rate was here, mine was here. And I realized that I need to pull up my work rate. Because he was there as a coach. Pushed me to excellence. Pushed me to work hard. And you need that. You need to surround yourself with that. Everyone. And this is very important. And then learn from your experience. Here I like to tell a story of Jack Welch. Some of you know Jack Welch. Some of you know Jack Welch. Yeah, you know him. You know, when he was a youngster, and he was running one of the companies, and one of the companies we was running, he didn't look after safety. Part of my sustainability role is safety. And then the factory went on fire. And he went to his boss, he tells the story, and he says, I'm going to resign because I know. But his boss asked him, what have you learned out of this incident? Jack was a youngster at that time. He was able to articulate exactly what he learned. And his boss says, look, now that you've learned, I have paid the school fees. So why should I pay another school fees? By accepting your resignation and get another guy. So I'm not accepting your resignation. You go back and do what you've learned. And we know the story of Jack Welch. He ended up becoming one of the greatest CEOs to build GE. What are you learning from what? The mistakes you've made. I always tell people and say, there is nothing called failure. In my vocabulary, nothing. There's no failure. I either succeed or learn lessons. And trust me, I've started businesses which have failed, but I never call them failed. I always extract lessons. Why did they fail? And after those lessons, I've learned more lessons. And the next one that I start, or the division that I start, or within the organization now I'm at the senior level where I am, I just sit down and look at the young people when they come to make proposal to us as an executive committee. And I say, ooh, let me tell you, young man, or young woman, the route you're taking, if you turn around here, there's tortoises, they're going to catch you. Trust me, they caught me when I was doing that. If you go this way, there's a big cliff. You're going to fall into that big cliff. Because I have learned. I have learned. So as exactly what somebody said, if I walk here, you see this line here. If it was standing higher than this line, and it trips me, by the time I fall, I probably will fall here. If I stand up and look around here, why have I fallen? I won't find a reason. And I probably will fall again because I'm looking here. Once you've fallen, you got to look around everywhere and say, what caused me to fall? Because that's when the learning comes. And then you'll be able to pick up, hey, there was a trip here. What are we going to do with this trip now? Are we going to put a big board says, warning, there is a mind your step, you remember that? Or we're going to engineer it out and remove it. And that is what learning, that's what experience is. It's not doing one thing 10 times and you claim you've got 10 years experience. Are you with me? Learning from experience means you learn, you've analyzed, you've actually internalized the lessons that made you to trip. And many people do not spend time in after falling, assess why you fell. Because if you don't do that, you're going to fall all the time. You see, in my organization, we allow people to make a mistake, but you make it once. If you make it twice, you're going to get into serious trouble. Are you with me? It means you're not learning. Because mistakes are a gift for you to learn. And it is very important. This is why, for instance, when we're talking safety, when there's a near miss, that's the one I'm more interested in. Say, please report this near miss. If, for instance, there was this thing, and it fell, and before it hit you, you were able to miss. It missed you, and it crashed. It could have crushed your head. Now, let's stop there and say, thank God for this gift. Why did this thing fall? What we call root cause analysis. Root cause analysis. If there's anything I'm going to lift you up, do root cause analysis of everything that you do. It's very important. I've already mentioned engage in honest conversation. And I think that's the end of what I want to say.